Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Mac Morey producing. Ken Weaver back in the newsroom. Welcome back, Ken.
Woo! Well, thank you, boys.
He's already on fire.
I wish I could say I was excited to be back, but
Well,
I'm here.
We're excited enough to have you, Ken.
I mean, I'm glad to be with you boys.
Of course.
But if I had my druthers, as they say, I'd rather be in my soft clothes and still asleep.
You could have wore soft clothes.
Well, yeah, I guess I could have.
This is a JFZ on the Chris Hand Show. Judgment-free zone.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Ken did the opposite of soft clothes. Got the vest, long sleeve button up on. Man, he's looking sharp.
Oh, this old thing. Oh.
So, all right, Mac, why am I already getting texts about whether or not I believe in the moon landing? Do you know why people are texting me about this?
What?
I know, it's so early for this already. We're getting that. Yeah, well, I know that Murphy was talking about that yesterday because he was talking about the moon landing. He's like, there aren't people who really don't believe in it. And then we had a bunch of super texters say, well, I don't know. Chris Hand's discussed it before. He's been a little iffy. And
Yeah, I think there's reasons to be iffy. That's all I'm saying. We don't have the technology for a remote control, but we can make a phone call to the moon, to Nixon. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? The motivation was there to win the Cold War, and then we never have the tech to get back. I don't know. It's just weird. Weird. So, I'm not saying that I don't believe in the moon landing, but I'm not saying I do. You know what I mean? I feel like you listen to the arguments of the people that don't believe in it, and you're like, okay, I could understand that.
you're suspicious.
I feel like you have to be suspicious. Do you believe everything the government tells you?
I would hope the answer would be no to that.
That's all I'm saying. They've lied about smaller things. They've lied about bigger things.
1816 says, you people believe in the moon?
Hologram, baby. So this is when I get into the studio and I open up the super text line. It's like, Chris, you have to address the moon. It's like, why do I have to address
why
the moon?
am I the moon guy?
I don't want to be the moon guy. I don't want to have opinions on this. Why is this a thing all of a sudden? Murphy's talking about it. Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire is talking about it. Everybody's talking about the moon. And I'm the one that has to answer these texts. I don't want to be that guy.
Andrew says, how did they fit the car on the lander?
Nobody knows. I just don't know how we got back and when we lost the technology. We lost it. We'd love to go back. We just don't know how. It seems a little sus. But hey, each their own.
So good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. There's actual news going on. I just felt the need to address that. There was like 10 texts in the super text
you
line.
had to. You can't ignore that. When people talk about the moon landing, that specifically, that much in the morning.
Like, why
Gotta
did
address
this?
it.
I had to. This is how I start my day. Excellent. People are saying Chris the moon is cheese. Fact check that for me, Mac.
on it.
But the moon is not real, just like the birds. See, that's a theory I can get behind.
People are catching on.
That's a theory I can get behind. Oh, jeez. Somebody was already on the moon to film it landing. LOL, says 4465. Yeah, of course. Rick says, nobody has yet to answer the question on the first moon landing. Who took the picture? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Somebody says 7333. You're a flat earther, aren't you? Big time flat earther. I love flat earth theory. All right, well, let's get into real news, shall we? Oh no, never mind. Dave is calling and he wants to talk about
on the dark side where the aliens and us, we have a nice relationship. You probably read about it in a book from back in the 70s.
Dave, I don't believe you. You can't make phone calls from the moon. You're trolling.
All right, I'm calling from Murfreesboro.
All right, thanks for the call. I appreciate you, Dave.
All right, thanks.
All right, later. Dave is not on the dark side of the moon. You can't make phone calls from the moon. Everybody knows that. Cell service doesn't reach.
Loved that, though. That's great, Dave.
I do too. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you. All right, so we begin the day. Did you know that Democrats are actually racist? Anybody?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to alarm you.
Newsflash.
So we start with, was the moon landing real? Now we're going to, are Democrats racist? It turns out they are. So Yesterday, Nancy Pelosi was attacked by hecklers in her driveway. And do you know how she dealt with the hecklers? She told them to go back to China.
He's got to stop trying.
Oh, wrong one. Hold on one second. There it is. That was Nikki Haley, not Nancy Pelosi. So the protesters roll up on her in the driveway.
Most of your constituents walk beside you. Stop the genocide. Stop the Holocaust.
Democrats want the ceasefire. The Democrats want the ceasefire.
Did you hear her at the end there? Nancy Pelosi says, go back to China. Listen.
Whoa.
Go back to China.
Where you came from, I believe she said.
Yes. I don't know if the protester was Chinese or not. I could only see the back of the heads. But Nancy Pelosi seemed pretty sure. And she wants the protesters to go back. This is yesterday also, Nancy Pelosi was saying that these Gaza protesters are Russians. The Russians are funding these. So I'm surprised she didn't say go back to Russia. She said go back to China. Pretty racist, right? Would you not consider that racist and xenophobic?
Bingo.
Also, the president is racist. And a reporter called out Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday at the press briefing for just that. Because the president, President Biden, is saying we're going to shut down the border. And this reporter points out the fact that, when Trump said the same thing, everybody kind of called him racist.
Back in the winter of 2018 and the spring of 2019, President Trump vowed to shut down the border with Mexico using almost the identical language that the president used on Friday. Many, if not most, if not practically all Democrats called that xenophobic and even racist. Why shouldn't people make the same conclusion about this president's threat to shut down the entire border with Mexico?
Well, you see, if you have a problem voting for Joe Biden or Donald Trump, you ain't black, right? Is that what you think that's what she's going to say? No, it's not what she said.
So we believe the new enforcement tools that currently don't exist, we believe that will be part of this bipartisan agreement, will be fair.
Oh.
We believe it'll be tough, but it will be fair.
Well, the new stuff is going to be tough and fair. I'd argue shutting down the border completely when Trump said it is tough and fair. If you shut down the border, you shut down the border for everybody. I also think the mass deportations that Trump has promised when he gets back into the office will be tough and fair. Just deport everybody that came illegally. That's tough. That's fair. But the reporter pushes back on KJP, says, yeah, but Biden wasn't talking about the new stuff. He said, shut down the border.
He didn't say, on day one, I will use enhanced enforcement to improve the processing of people at the border. He said, I will shut the border down, which suggests a total rejection of all people attempting to cross the border without a visa or without proper authorization, which stands in contravention to decades of international and U.S. law that governs the movement of people around the globe and the refugees and asylum system.
Yeah, no,
so why isn't that the same thing that Trump did?
No, I understand your question. What I'm saying to you, the new enforcement tools, right, that we believe that do not currently exist, that will be part of this bipartisan agreement. There are different definitions, right, of what that looks like, of what actually shutting down the border looks like, right? So we're going to let them work through it. We don't know what that looks like exactly, right? What we are asking for, what the president wants to see, is that we deal with the challenges at the border.
Do you really believe that the president wants to deal with the challenges at the border? I feel like the only challenge that he's really wanting to deal with at the border is the challenges from Texas to stop the inflow of illegal immigration. But Karine Jean-Pierre says he's not racist. He wants to deal with challenges. And there's going to be a broader conversation.
And so we will certainly have a broader conversation once that happens. But we believe it's going to be fair. It'll be tough. It'll be fair. They'll have the resources available to deal with what's going on at the border. And also there'll be some policy changes as well. But to say that, to define what that looks like right now, it's getting ahead of the process. And we need to let Republicans, both Democrats, there are Democrats up there obviously talking to Republicans. They're both having those conversations on what it will look like, a bipartisan agreement. And that's what you need. In order to really deal with this issue, you got to do it in a bipartisan way.
Got it. You got to work together. It's got to be bipartisan. Like when Joe Biden took all those executive actions at the beginning of his term. Well, he did that one on his own. And he kind of broke the border by himself on his own without the Republicans. But to fix it, we need to do it together, right? And they keep saying, trust the process. Wait for the process to play out. We don't know what's in the deal. But at the same time, the president is saying, I can shut down the border if you pass the deal. But we don't know what's in the deal. You got to wait. We got to see what is in the deal. We got to trust the process. But you got to pass the deal to find out what's in the deal. Classic Washington, D.C., right?
Just to follow up, you've said a couple of times, as you did just now, that we should wait. You don't want to get ahead of the process. I think your answer to the previous question was that we don't know what's in it. Yet the president and the White House have explicitly said it should pass. So how is it that on the one hand, the president has said, pass this thing and send it to me, but then when asked about it, you say, well, I don't want to get ahead of it, we don't know what's in it. How could you say you want to pass it when you don't know what's in it?
Here's the thing. Both things could be true, and I'll explain why.
Please explain why, because I don't know about you. I'm a little confused. Sounds like he's racist and we don't know what's in the bill, right? If we're playing by the Democrat rules, it sounds like the president is one of those xenophobes and we don't know what's in the bill, but we have to pass it.
The White House team has been part of, right, the negotiations, right? And the president has been getting regular updates, right? So obviously, no. What I'm saying is negotiations are still happening. They're literally still happening. They're still discussing this. If I tell you this is happening today, who knows what could happen the next day? And also, I don't want to get ahead of the conversations, right?
Okay. I'm a little bit infuriated when I hear the way Karine Jean-Pierre talks to reporters with actual questions. She treats them like children. She acts like their questions have no value, and she's completely disrespectful. I don't want to get ahead of it. Okay. Thanks, KJP. There's more from her White House press briefing yesterday. It was a doozy between her and John Kirby, because as you know, KJP can't be trusted to do these press briefings alone anymore. She never does them alone anymore. She's fantastic at her job, so she's got to do the buddy system, right? Where's your buddy? So there's John Kirby every day at the White House press briefing. Can't be trusted alone. More from that on the way. It's 9:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Lots of traffic problems. Right now, you've got debris blocking the right lane, Briley Parkway westbound at the Clarksville Pike exit. In Montgomery County, rolling roadblocks. This is for pothole patching. That's 24 eastbound at MLK Parkway. And that's got 24 westbound right before Rossview Road, slowed up as well. Fatal crash details are coming in. Massive layoffs announced and a Toyota recall to tell you about at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is so good to have that handsome son of a gun, Ken Weaver, back in the saddle. My name is Chris Hand. It is 9:27 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And Karine Jean-Pierre, yesterday at the press conference, she was asked if Joe Biden will be speaking with the families of the U.S. troops that were killed by Iran proxies.
Has the president called already, or does he plan to speak with the families of the fall service members?
Don't have any calls to read out. Obviously, and as Kirby started off this briefing, obviously the president and first lady sent out their deepest condolences and heartfelt thoughts to the families.
No call scheduled, but he sent out his deepest condolences and thoughts to the families. Am I wrong in thinking Donald Trump would have already picked up the phone and called the family? Biden doesn't have anything on his schedule for this. You just lost 3 American soldiers, and you have nothing on your schedule for this? Shouldn't this have been the first step? Am I wrong in thinking that this should have been the first step? This administration cares nothing about the military and soldiers, and it's on full display here. She says, I don't have any calls to read out.
To their friends and also the units, their unit as well. And this is a sad day. Yesterday was a very, very sad day for not just their family and the units and the friends, but also the American people. And so obviously we continue to mourn with them. Once we have more to share about a call or outreach, certainly we will let you all know.
Once we have more about a call, we'll let you all know. We'll let you know. We'll keep you posted. This is just another lackadaisical show from the administration. They don't care. They just don't care. And they don't even try to pretend it. There's been talks about what are they going to do next. They've been telegraphing all these plans and nothing gets done. The administration doesn't care. They don't care about the soldiers. They don't care about Americans. They don't care. That's all I really have to say about that. They just don't care.
"9:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes, and we're learning more about that fatal crash that closed 24 westbound in Murfreesboro this morning. One car in the eastbound lanes had crossed over the median at Joe B. Jackson Parkway and slammed head-on into another car going westbound. The driver of the car that went across the median, 19-year-old Bianca Benford, was killed. The other driver was injured. Massive job cuts at UPS. UPS announcing this morning it's cutting 12,000 jobs after revenue came in under expectations last year, $24 billion instead of $25 billion. Officials also cite rising labor union costs. And the Centers for Disease Control warning healthcare providers across the country to be on the lookout for measles cases after recent outbreaks. The disease coming up again about 20 years after it was thought to have been eliminated in 2000. And 50,000 owners of certain Toyota vehicles need to stop driving their cars immediately after the company says shards of the airbag could hit drivers and passengers. The recall affects 2003 to 2004 Corolla and Corolla Matrix vehicles, as well as 2004 to 2005 RAV4s. Toyota says the age of the airbags could cause an explosion and the sharp metal pieces could fly out of the airbags. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
9:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super text line is on fire today, 615-737-9986. How many texts did we just get in about that, Mac?
I mean, at least like 5 or 6.
Yep. So just for everybody that's sending in the text about the commercial that was aired, about the event that's happening, LOL, capitalism, right? LOL. I don't know. I don't do that stuff. People handle that for us, so it's not Mac or I. But we can put in a call. We could double up the cars for kids if you prefer. It's like I don't know what you guys want. So as we continue, we were talking about the Karine Jean-Pierre press conference. This woman really doesn't care. This administration really doesn't care. But they want to be very clear. The president is concerned about border security.
The president is very clear. He wants to make sure that we deal with the border security, that we deal with the challenges at the border.
Let's be very clear. Border security is a priority for Joe Biden. Except in their world, border security means a wide open border. By the way, let's play a game. Mac, you ready to play a game?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Tell me what this sound is. Any guesses? Any guesses?
I don't know.
Oh, that's the latest caravan of 8,000 people headed north towards our southern border. So when Karine Jean-Pierre tells me that they take this very seriously.
The president is very clear. He wants to make sure that we deal with the border security, that we deal with the challenges at the border.
Well, there's a challenge headed right towards the border, 8,000 strong. But I'm sure the Biden administration would just rather process these people and let them in. But they haven't done anything to Texas yet. There's been talks that Biden could federalize the National Guard. Is he going to federalize the National Guard? You know, Tucker actually sat down with Greg Abbott and asked him just that question. What is your response if Biden federalizes the Texas National Guard?
Well, first, I'll be shocked. That would be a boneheaded move on his part, a total disaster.
It would be a total disaster. That would be one of the most loser moves he could make, federalize the National Guard. Although you could argue no matter what move Biden makes in this battle with Texas on the border, it's a lose-lose for the administration. Right now, he looks weak. Texas is winning. There are calls to federalize the Texas National Guard. He's not doing it. Democrats think he's weak. But the flip side is he goes full physical and tries to do something, in which case he looks like the tyrant he is. But Greg Abbott, what is your response if Biden federalizes the National Guard? He doesn't think it's going to happen.
Well, first, I'll be shocked. That would be a boneheaded move on his part, a total disaster. But for one, as you might imagine, we are prepared in the event that unlikely event does occur to make sure that we will be able to continue exactly what we've been doing over the past month, and that is building these barriers, whether it be the concertina wire or other anti-crime border barriers, whatever we've been building. The Biden administration is now trying to attack us because of it, and we will continue to do exactly what we're doing to expand our denial of illegal entry into the state of Texas.
Well, they need to expand it, and they need to keep going quick because, like I said, there's a caravan of about 8,000 people headed north. It still blows my mind that these caravans were once a big news story where we would all go, whoa, and take notice. And now a caravan is just like, yeah, all right. Well, it's another caravan. What's another $8,000 to the millions of illegal aliens that have come across the border? Oh, all right, no big deal. Meanwhile, Tucker asked Greg Abbott, is there a scenario where you'll see armed state employees and not National Guard at the border because of that threat to federalize the Texas National Guard.
We do have other armed state employees on the border as we speak right this minute, and that's the Texas Department of Public Safety, as well as other law enforcement officers, as well as National Guard from other states. And you can be assured there will be more National Guard from other states.
There will be more National Guard from other states. You know, I believe it was Ron DeSantis out of Florida sent his state guard, the Florida State Guard, to Texas because Biden can't nationalize them. And to that I say, cheers, bro. Good call. Good move. But there's already State Department people down there on the border at Texas. Greg Abbott says, of course, we're prepared for this. And it seems like we could be heading that direction. Tucker asks Greg Abbott if he's spoken to Biden or anyone at the White House about what looks like an imminent collision.
I have not, to be clear. I have spoken to the president about the border. I met him on a tarmac in El Paso and talked to him directly about what was going on. I handed him a letter that had in it immediate solutions he could take that would immediately secure the border without the need of any new law to be passed.
Wait a second. I thought Biden could only shut down the border if this new border deal was passed. Right? Isn't that what he always says? You know, I could shut down the border right away if we pass this new deal, if it's bipartisan. But Greg Abbott says, I gave him a list of things that he could do. 8 things he could do that could shut down the border today without passing any new laws. Without passing any new laws, you say?
I handed him a letter that had in it immediate solutions he could take that would immediately secure the border without the need of any new law to be passed. Despite the fact that I handed him on altogether 8 different letters, he has refused to ever respond. My point in telling you that, we have laid down the precursor of what's called Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution to show that we have been invaded and we have demanded support from the president to safeguard our state, and they have refused to do so 8 times, and that authorized me to declare an invasion under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution to make sure that Texas is going to be able to use every tool in our arsenal to defend our states.
Yeah, and they should be using every tool in their arsenal to defend their states. Meanwhile, we have Republican attorney generals demanding in a scathing letter that President Joe Biden needs to get out of the way so Texas can secure its southern border with Mexico. It was 26 Republican attorney generals. More than 24 Republican attorney generals have signed a letter supporting Texas's right to defend its borders against the migrant invasion, telling President Biden to get out of the way. In a blistering rebuke of President Joe Biden's border crisis, these 26 attorney generals expressed their support of Texas's ongoing effort to secure the U.S.-Mexico border. The letter condemns Biden and the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for impeding Texas's efforts to stem the flow of migrants entering the state illegally. The release of the letter is timely. Of course, as last week we know, the Supreme Court decided 5-4 to temporarily overturn the lower court's injunction that banned federal officials from cutting razor wire barriers, yada, yada, yada. Everybody knows all about that. But this letter says the federal government must secure the border, and if they're not going to do it, they shouldn't be trying to keep Texas from doing the job they won't do. That was Iowa Attorney General Brenna Byrd, who organized the letter, telling Fox News in an interview yesterday. She says if the administration would put half as much energy into securing the border as they have fighting with Texas over Texas doing the job they won't do, I think this problem might be a lot better off right now. A quarter of the energy that they've spent fighting Texas, if they had put into securing the border, this whole situation would be a lot better. The letter is signed by attorney generals from Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. It's a lot of states. A lot of states. Millions of people coming into Texas illegally as part of a coordinated assault on our border is an invasion, the attorney generals wrote, adding that states must be able to defend themselves from the invasion. What you should do is simple. Enforce the law and protect the border. the Attorney General said. If you cannot bring yourself to enforce the law, get out of the way so Texas can. And, of course, the Biden administration says, well, we want to do something. We want to shut down the border, but we need to pass this deal. And as Greg Abbott said to Tucker, I gave him a list, 8 different ways of how he could fix this without passing any new laws.
I handed him a letter that had in it immediate solutions he could take that would immediately secure the border without the need of any new law to be passed.
No new laws. No new laws. Texas, of course, is reinforcing the border, adding more razor wire, refusing to comply with this current administration's demands. Abbott is asserting that the state has a right to self-defense against what he's termed an invasion, declaring that it was Joe Biden's actions that have caused this invasion and that Texas must defend against. The authors of this letter, the 26 attorney generals, also wrote that Texas should be recognized for its efforts to secure the border despite federal intervention working to do the opposite. It says Texas should be applauded for continuing to try to protect the border despite the federal government now, again, being able to try to destroy the barriers Texas builds. Of course, Texas is standing up to tyranny here. Since Biden took office, we know that we've had more than 6 million migrant encounters entering the country illegally. That's according to Customs and Border Patrol. The number is probably much higher. Much higher. Those are just the ones that we know about. Those are the ones that have encountered Customs and Border Patrol. Border Patrol officials, however, have indicated that they will not work to remove the barriers constructed by Texas. And to that, I say good. At a certain point, just following orders is BS. And it sounds like Border Patrol down there is like, yeah, we're not following those orders. And I say good on them. Why should they follow these orders that are downright insane? Tucker asked Greg Abbott, though, are you concerned? Are you concerned where this conflict heads and if this conflict will come down to state versus government in a kinetic kind of way?
But in the next year, are you concerned about any kind of conflict between state forces, whether state employees or National Guard, and federal forces?
So, Tucker, all we can do is be as prepared as possible, deploy as many people as possible, do as much as possible to put up more border barriers and deny illegal entry. And our head is down. We're working hard, regardless of what the Biden administration is doing.
I like that answer. It's a very political, very, very PC answer, right? PR driven. He doesn't say, oh, we're ready to fight. He says, we're going to do what we need to do. But it seems like we're trending that way. And no matter what the Biden administration does, it is a lose-lose effort. If the Biden administration goes full physical, they look like tyrants. If the Biden administration bends the knee, which it appears to be doing, they look weak. They either look like they're facilitating this invasion or they have no actual authority over the state of Texas. It is quite the predicament for the Biden administration, but predicaments in the Biden administration, they go hand in hand. They are constantly involved in these quagmires. We got more on the way. Hang out with us, including how China is bankrolling Iran. It is 9:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Fatal crash details, measles outbreak, massive layoffs announced. 50,000 drivers of certain Toyotas need to stop driving those vehicles immediately. These stories and more coming up at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. Currently up in D.C., members of the House and Homeland Security Committee are holding a hearing to discuss the Republican-led impeachment articles against Alejandro Mayorkas. So this is a vote to see if they can vote to impeach, right?
That's it. Yeah.
It's the vote for the vote for the vote.
Yeah, this would send it to the full House.
Okay. And then it'll never get through the Senate.
No, of course not.
No. Anyway, Chairman Mark Green, Tennessee's own, was discussing all this and calling out Mayorkas in real time about 30 minutes ago.
Father of the Constitution, impeachment can be used to remove those unworthy from office. Secretary Mayorkas is the very type of public official the framers feared, someone who would cast aside the laws passed by a co-equal branch of government, replacing those with his own preferences, hurting his fellow Americans in the process. House Democrats in the 2019 impeachment of President Trump wrote that impeachable offenses were those that, quote, inflicted grave harm on our political order, end quote. Then Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler noted during the Senate trial, and I quote, "To the framing generation, moreover, abuse of power was a well-understood offense. It took two basic forms. The first occurred when someone exercised power in ways far beyond what the law allowed, or in ways that destroyed checks on their own authority. The second occurred when an official exercised power to obtain an improper personal benefit while ignoring or injuring the national interest."
Well, you can definitely argue that Alejandro Mayorkas is ignoring or injuring our national interests. But for every Mark Green, we get another ranking member like Democrat Rep. Thompson, who is, covering for Mayorkas and saying, this is all just MAGA extremist talking points, you guys.
Alejandro Mayorkas, a dedicated public servant. The sham impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas is a baseless political stunt by extreme MAGA Republicans.
It's baseless. There's no base. Okay. Nothing. And don't even think about that 8,000 person caravan heading north, okay?
Don't.
We won't. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got some pothole repairs slowing things down on 24 east and westbound. Going to be north of Nashville. This is Montgomery County. That pothole patching and paving going on between exits 8 and 11. Also, in Whites Creek, you got some debris in the right lane that is blocking the right lane there of Bradley Parkway westbound at Clarksville Pike. And we're learning more about that crash that shut down 24 in Murfreesboro this morning. The THP says it was a head-on crash at Joe B. Jackson Parkway. Troopers say a vehicle driven by 19-year-old Bianca Benford went across the median from the eastbound lanes and slammed head-on into another vehicle going westbound. That driver was wearing a seatbelt and survived, but Benford, who was not wearing a seatbelt, did not survive. The Centers for Disease Control is warning healthcare providers across the country to be on the lookout for measles cases after recent outbreaks. The disease coming up again about 20 years after it was thought to have been eliminated in 2000. ABC Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Jennifer Ashton reports.
Initially, it looks like a flu-like virus, and the incubation period and the infectious period can be as long as 3 weeks. It can be serious. 1 in 5 people who are infected with measles are hospitalized, and the possible complications involve lung, pneumonia, encephalitis, permanent disability, and in some rare cases, death.
Not a good day at UPS. The company announcing this morning it's going to be cutting 12,000 jobs. The CEO says 2023 was a difficult year. She says revenue came in $1 billion under expectation. Labor union costs are rising. 50,000 owners of certain Toyota vehicles need to stop driving their cars immediately after the company says shards of the airbag could be deadly. Here's Elizabeth Schulze.
The 2003-2004 Corolla and Corolla Matrix and the 2004-2005 RAV4. Toyota is citing an issue with the age of the airbags that could cause a part inside to explode and shoot sharp metal fragments, injuring or killing drivers and passengers.
Owners of these vehicles can go to toyota.com/recall or a dealer. The company says it'll fix the airbags for free, and that's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
.10:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Getting a lot of texts about the measles outbreaks. People are commenting, maybe it has something to do with our wide open southern border. I see your texts, and I appreciate them at 615-737-9986. I appreciate you guys listening wherever you go with the iHeartRadio app and the TuneIn app. And checking out the show if you missed it or sharing it with your friends by sharing the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Hey, did you know that China's bankrolling Iran? Anybody? Everybody? We probably assumed, right?
I mean, yeah, I could have gotten there eventually, yeah.
Yeah. You follow the breadcrumbs. We're bankrolling Iran, too, full disclosure, when we pay them billions of dollars for hostages. But the Daily Mail has an exclusive. China is bankrolling Iran and enabling deadly attacks on U.S. troops. This is from Republican Mike Gallagher. And saying that Biden must restore deterrence in the Middle East by striking Iran targets. Top Republican says China emboldened Iran to launch deadly strikes on the U.S., and President Biden must step up and show strength by hitting back swiftly. Over the weekend, 3 American soldiers were killed. We've heard that story. It is sad. The Biden administration has not even put out phone calls to the family, according to KJP, as of yesterday. Nothing on the schedule. The House China Select Committee Chairman Mike Gallagher told DailyMail.com that Iran's acts of deadly aggression have been facilitated by China. It's impossible to make sense of the situation in the Middle East without considering the role that China wants to play in the region, he said. China is the senior partner in the global alignment of authoritarian revisionist powers determined to end American leadership, Gallagher, a Republican out of Wisconsin, continued. He said China may not be giving all the orders in this cabal that includes Russia, Iran, North Korea, but it's very much the senior partner, and it's bankrolling the other members, providing key assistance to enable the aggression we're seeing today from Ukraine to the Middle East. As a response to the deadly attack Saturday night, Gallagher is urging Biden to restore deterrence through force. He says, I would advocate for a forceful response on Iranian targets and certainly Iranian proxy targets. And that's the only way we can possibly start to restore deterrence in the Middle East. I get where he's coming from, and I get where a lot of people are coming from when they want to hit Iran. I can't help but see that this would snowball into a much larger conflict in World War III, and the guy that we have in control is Joe Biden. And do we trust Joe Biden and his administration to steer us through this conflict? Joe Biden, by the way, is the same president who is meeting with business associates that are linked to the CCP. Joe Biden met with a CCP-linked company and was paid, according to Breitbart.com, $3 million from this company after he left the vice presidency. This is what Biden associate Rob Walker told the House Oversight Committee. The timing of these payments raised suspicion about whether or not the payments were delayed to obscure Joe Biden as the brand the business sold to receive millions. The Bidens earned tens of millions of dollars from foreign business deals for which Hunter offered no real work. And now, Rob Walker, who described himself as an acting surrogate for Hunter around the country and abroad pursuing opportunities, said CEFC paid the Biden family business $3 million after Joe Biden left the vice presidency in 2017, delaying the payment for more than a year, though, until Joe became a private citizen. In addition, Rob Walker told the committee the now missing chairman of CEFC, Yi Jinming, met with Joe Biden in 2017. The meeting occurred at the Washington, D.C. Four Seasons Hotel and included about 10 others, according to an FBI interview recently released by the House Ways and Means Committee. Through Walker, the Biden family received a $3 million wire transfer and subsequent payments from CEFC between 2015 and 2017, the Oversight Committee revealed back in March from suspicious activity reports and subpoenaed records from Bank of America. The Chinese company paid Hunter Biden and his associates $3 million shortly after Joe Biden left office as a thank you for the work they did while Joe was in office. That's what the Oversight Committee said on Friday. Members of the Biden family received payments from the Chinese deal, even though they didn't work on it. This is the type of swampy influence peddling that the American people want us to end. So Joe Biden's getting paid by the CCP as well, and his family's enriching. So Biden gets paid by China. His family gets enriched by the CCP. China's bankrolling Iran. Biden is bankrolling Iran, making it easier for them to make money off their oil, sending them billions of dollars for hostages. Everyone gets rich, and America loses. Soldiers lose, families lose, war hawks get rich. This is bad enough to start World War III, what we saw over the weekend. What do these psychos in power think World War III will lead to? Americans will lose. Families will lose. This is why I'm against going full scorched earth in Iran. Targeted strikes against Iran proxies, I get. But I worry where this leads. And I know that it's not a popular opinion, but I can't trust the leadership that we have. I mean, even the soldiers that we have in Jordan. We have 3,000 soldiers in Jordan. 3,000 American troops. For perspective, the amount of troops we have in Jordan is more than we had in Afghanistan at the end of Donald Trump's presidency. So, why? Why were they there? if we had a pro-America government, I feel like the first move would be bring those troops home and put them on the southern border so that they can defend American interests. Because I don't understand what they're doing in Jordan and how that protects America. Am I the only one? I mean, our leaders will tell them they're there to protect will tell us they're there to protect American interests and keep us safe. But I don't see it. I feel like we have more problems at home, and we could use those soldiers here. We could use them on the southern border. 3,000 American troops. We have an 8,000-person caravan heading north as we speak. We could use those soldiers here. But the Biden administration bankrolls Iran. At the end of the Trump administration, Iran had not that much money in their reserves. And the Biden administration has increased it more than 10 times.
We should be reimposing sanctions on the oil and gas sector, on their ballistic missile sector. Let me give you one statistic. End of the Trump administration, Iran had about $4 billion in foreign reserves. That's not a lot, okay? Biden comes in, lifts sanctions. They're exporting oil like crazy, natural gas like crazy. Their foreign reserves right now are north of $70 billion. The Iranians, that's what they're funding these terrorist proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis with. That's what you need to do for a comprehensive, strategic, long-term policy of reestablishing deterrence. It's not easy. The Trump administration did it. Biden's been weak. They got to redo this.
I would support that. I would support more sanctions. That was Senator Dan Sullivan out of Alaska. I would support that. I would support more sanctions. I would support reinstating those policies. But Biden's not going to do that. And we're supposed to trust this man to lead us into World War III. I don't see it. I don't see it ending well for America if we find ourselves embroiled in another Middle Eastern quagmire. There's a guy, Joe Kent. He's running for Congress in Washington State. He's a Republican. GOP endorsed him. This guy's a Green Beret combat veteran, Gold Star husband. He sounds like a great guy. He's doing an interview with Tucker, and he's talking about what happened over the weekend.
Because Trump ran on defeating the Islamic Caliphate, ISIS, and that needed to be done. Unfortunately, ISIS was a byproduct of the Iraq war, the invasion, and all the blunders that we made there. But Trump inherited that problem. We had to deal with it. We had to go take out the caliphate. We did that in very short order.
We did it in short order, but do you trust Joe Biden to handle something in Iran in short order?
Trump gave the order to withdraw, and that's when the D.C. war machine, which unfortunately is controlled by Republicans and Democrats and even more powerful unelected bureaucrats, turned against Trump to leave our troops there. And she was killed. And a lot of the justification for leaving our troops in Syria and in Iraq has been to prevent so-called Iranian influence, malign Iranian influence, to counter Russia. And that is nothing more than us baiting a trap for ourselves to get our troops killed, to encourage and then really to justify a further war against Iran. It's absolute insanity. And we have to ask ourselves as American citizens, what do we gain from this? If we're going to deploy our troops and we're going to lose our best and our brightest, and we're going to spend trillions of dollars, what do we, the American people, gain? At the same time, we just lost 3 Americans defending the Jordanian-Syrian border. Our border is wide open. Fentanyl's killing over 118,000 of our citizens. 10 million illegal invaders have come into our country. So where are the priorities of our ruling class?
And that's where I settle. Where are the priorities of our ruling class? I don't think that they have our best interest at heart. I don't want to pretend that I have all the answers. But I do know that our ruling class doesn't have our best interest at heart. It's on display every single day. Every single day. We see time and time again, they don't have our best interest at heart. And we find ourselves more embroiled in these conflicts, getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Just recently, the White House admits that the U.S. has troops on the ground in Yemen. Was there any discussion about that? Was there a vote? Troops are on the ground in Yemen, according to a report from the White House. When asked if there was a presence there, the Pentagon refused to acknowledge the reality earlier in January. A small number of United States military personnel are deployed to Yemen to conduct operations against al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula and ISIS, the White House told Congress in a December 7th report. But in a press briefing earlier in January 17th, Pentagon Press Secretary Pat Ryder was asked if he could say with confidence that troops were not on the ground in Yemen, and he responded saying, "I'm not aware of any U.S. forces on the ground." They lied. This is what the people in power do. They lie to us. After reporting on the contradiction, The Intercept reached out for comment from the U.S. Department of Defense. They said, Major General Ryder's prior assertion that there are no U.S. forces on the ground in Yemen remains accurate, DoD spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Brian McGarry told the outlet after the report's publication. Eric Sperling, the executive director of Just Foreign Policy, told reporters, it's possible that U.S. forces are spread so widely around the globe that not even the professionals tasked with knowing can keep track of it all. But it's also possible that given the dramatic expansion in the U.S. presence in the region in recent months, he's trying to skirt the question to avoid greater scrutiny, he continued. The report from the White House back in December stated that the United States military continues to work closely with the Republic of Yemen government and regional partner forces to degrade the terrorist threat posed by terrorist groups. I remember a president that we had just a few years ago that was degrading terrorist presence in the region. And it seems like the president we have now is just enriching the terrorist presence that we have in those regions. And the ones that are taking the heat for it are American soldiers. And I'm having a hard time seeing what interests of the American people these serve. We have a wide open southern border, Americans dying every day from fentanyl, and we don't hear a peep. They tell us, oh, we need a bipartisan deal. Well, was there a bipartisan deal to send troops into Yemen that we didn't know about? The Pentagon doesn't even admit that they're there. I'm just of the opinion that we need to bring our troops home. I'm sick and tired of these Middle Eastern forever wars that are still going on. And I'm tired of the military-industrial complex dictating our foreign policy. Maybe it's an unpopular opinion. 2613 says, why don't we just nuke Iran? No troops, just nukes. I mean, is that what we want to do? I'm against World War III. Would nuking Iran solve that problem? I don't think so. Sally says we're already in World War III. Russian front, Middle Eastern front, Mexican front. Wait for the Chinese front. It does seem like we're already in World War III. And as this conflict progresses, there's going to be a point where we zoom out and we say, where did this all start? And did it start with the 3 soldiers killed in Jordan? Did it start when Ukraine was invaded? Did it start on October 7th? Historians will have to decide. But I don't see what interests this serves the American people. It's 1020 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, drivers, got more pothole repairs to tell you about. This is for Mount Juliet. This will be along Lebanon Road through the city as TDOT repairs potholes on the state-maintained roadway. That is in Mount Juliet on Lebanon Road. Then in Montgomery County, you've got pothole patching going on between exits 11 and 8. That is both east and westbound. Debris is blocking the right lane of Briley Parkway westbound at Clarksville Pike. Got a deadly crash and details on that. Tennessee Congressman Mark Green chairing the next step toward impeaching the Homeland Security Secretary, coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's good to have Ken back, isn't it?
Oh, I'm glad to be back, Brother Chris.
Wait, we missed you, man.
Yeah, Ken's the man.
I kept trying to skip ABC News. Mac wouldn't let me. I said, it's not Ken Weaver. I don't want to do it.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. It's crap. Anyway, the world's going crazy around us, my friends. Have you noticed? Have you looked around? Kamala Harris was at an event with Sophia Bush, and it was interrupted by pro-Palestinian protesters yelling at Kamala Harris. She recovered quickly. She refused to be burdened by what has been, and she just kept it moving. Dozens of protesters calling for a ceasefire in the Middle East interrupted Kamala Harris's event in San Jose yesterday. She wanted to talk about reproductive rights with actress Sophia Bush. It was a pro-abortion speech. It honestly drives me insane that these people don't understand how ironic it is that you're interrupting a speech about killing kids to say, stop killing kids. But you're like, no, not those kids. Those kids are fine. And both sides of this argument are like, we can kill those kids, but we want to actually talk about not killing or letting us kill these kids. Stop interrupting us about killing those kids. Blows my mind. But they want a ceasefire. That's what the protesters shouted as they waved the Palestinian flag. The vice president, again, was unburdened. They said, Biden, Harris, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Kamala Harris said, we all want this conflict to end as soon as possible. She tried to talk as security escorted the protesters out. She began, as soon as they were gone, she began once again to speak about killing kids, the right kids, babies in the womb. She said that the topic for this discussion is what we need to do to fight back against the laws that are criminalizing healthcare providers and making women suffer, she said as protesters were removed. The audience chanted 4 more years to drown out the protesters. This is their new move. Whenever protesters show up, they chant 4 more years. 4 more years. Does anybody really want 4 more years? I don't even think the audience members want 4 more years of what's going on in this administration.
Don't.
Sorry. Me personally, that's how I feel. But Kamala Harris, unbelievable. She says the call, the organizers of the protesters said reproductive freedom is also an issue for the women of Gaza. They're worried about that too. Hard to get abortions when you're being bombed, the protesters said. The call for ceasefire is a call for reproductive freedom, said Zara Billu, the Center for American Islamic Relations, San Francisco Bay Area executive director. That's what she told a local news station. How can we get abortions in Gaza if you keep bombing us, is what the protesters were trying to get across, apparently. Does that make sense to everybody? I'm very confused. I'm very confused. So that happens at a Kamala Harris, I don't know, what do you want to call it? A rally, a pro-abortion rally speech. Meanwhile, dozens of U.S. government workers, including Defense and State Department officials, are planning to go on a hunger strike for Gaza in protest to Biden's support of Israel. Do you want to know how long the hunger strike is going to be?
How long?
1 day. A 1 day hunger strike. These people can't even do hunger strikes right. Dozens of U.S. government workers will stage a one-day hunger strike to protest Biden administration support for Israel amid the war with Hamas. Isn't that just fasting?
Yeah, it's just a one-day break.
It's like a cleanse.
Well, they'll get a snack.
Yeah, we'll break for a snack around 3. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, we've got pothole patching going on in Mount Juliet. This is going to be Lebanon Road for about the next 2 hours. That's the situation in Montgomery County, affecting both east and westbound 24 and between exits 11 and 8. And we have learned a teenager died in that crash this morning that shut down part of I-24 in Murfreesboro. Tennessee Highway Patrol says 19-year-old Bianca Benford drove into the median from the eastbound lanes, then slammed head-on into a westbound vehicle. She died. The other driver survived. Tennessee Congressman Mark Green chairing the House Homeland Security Committee markup of articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
For almost a year, committee Democrats have turned a blind eye to the victims of the border crisis, while berating us for spending what they believed was too much time investigating Secretary Mayorkas' handling of the border.
Democrats say the House Republicans are confusing law with policy and that Mayorkas has acted within his authority to enforce current immigration law. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
10:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dozens of U.S. government workers, including Defense and State Department officials, plan to go on a hunger strike for Gaza in protest to Biden's support of Israel. They're going to do it on February 1st. It's a one-day hunger strike. And I brought it back up because everybody on the Super Text slide is awesome. 3468 said, that means they're going to skip lunch. So I told Mac off the air, I said, I believe that this hunger strike is going to be between breakfast and lunch.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. 8982 said, in the price of food, my family has been on a hunger strike ever since Biden stole that election. So, yep, I get it. We're all in a hunger strike a little bit. 1833 said, yeah, it'll last till lunchtime. It will. But, I mean, dozens of U.S. government workers will stage a one-day hunger strike. Members of Feds United for Peace. Talk about an oxymoron. Feds United for Peace.
Yeah, you don't see that.
You never see that. Feds United for Peace told The Guardian that employees from over 24 government agencies, including the Departments of Defense and State, plan on a day of fasting on Thursday. Oh, so in the fine print, they even call it fasting. Isn't that like healthy to do? There's a lot of health benefits to fasting.
I'm sure.
The officials participating will show up at work either dressed in black or wearing keffah scarves. You know the scarves I'm talking about. Is that how you pronounce it? Probably not. Or other symbols of Palestinian solidarity. They are going to be protesting the starvation as a weapon of war by intentionally withholding food from entering Gaza. And they're gonna have that protest for one day. It's a hunger strike, but it's really only fasting. These Feds United for Peace, they're the same group that organized a walkout that they called a day of mourning earlier this month to protest the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. You remember the walkout, right? The walkout that never happened. They planned a walkout, and it was going to be a big deal, and then it never happened. Al Jazeera said the group instead took a collective leave from their jobs. They took a PTO day instead. Instead of walking out and making a big stink, they just submitted it in payroll. You know what I mean? They said it was never designed as a walkout. It was designed as a day of mourning. And employees took different types of leave for this day of mourning and used it in different ways. So, like, if the Chiefs lose the Super Bowl, Mac, you're allowed to take a day of mourning.
Day of mourning, yes.
In different ways.
I will be prepared, yes.
Will you? All right, fair. Still, the planned walkout drew criticism from Republicans in Congress, with some, including Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, arguing the employees should be fired. These are the people that we have working in government. I feel like we could do without a lot of these people. It's just me. Trump can't get back in office soon enough. And it seems like we're trending that way. Although, Nikki Haley, did you hear this? Nikki Haley said if Trump is the nominee, that means we get a President Harris.
Let's speak some hard truths.
Okay, well, let me stop it right there.
All right, let me just pause.
Let me interject. You will never be president. Is that a hard enough truth? You're probably not going to win South Carolina. Most likely not going to win South Carolina, and you will not be the Republican nominee. All right, I'll let it go.
Let's speak some hard truths. If Donald Trump becomes the Republican nominee, we will get a President Kamala Harris. You mark my words. He cannot win a general election. Look at Iowa, look at New Hampshire. He can't get independents.
Wait. What'd she say?
He cannot win a general election. Look at Iowa, look at New Hampshire.
The states that he won. Look at the states that he beat me in. You think that this guy that beat me in those states can win a general election?
He can't get independents. He can't get suburban women. He's losing Republicans who say they don't want him and will vote for someone else. It's a problem.
I remember, I'm old enough to remember 2 weeks ago when we had all the audio of Democrats saying that they voted for Nikki Haley in these primaries in New Hampshire. Right? Everybody remember that? And then the same Democrats were asked, would you vote for Nikki in a general? And they said, no, they'll vote for Joe Biden. Okay, go on.
This is not personal for me. I have no problems with Donald Trump. I voted for him twice. I was proud to serve in his administration. This is about the fact America can't lose again. We lost in 2018. We lost in 2020. We lost in 2022. How many more times do we have to lose before we realize we have got to right this ship?
I don't think Nikki Haley's going to right the ship, especially when she has people like Liz Cheney urging her to stay in the race until at least Super Tuesday. This is one of the latest headlines I saw. Liz Cheney, everyone's favorite neocon, Liz Cheney, urges Nikki Haley to stay in the race until Super Tuesday. Trump allies say that Liz Cheney and Nikki Haley are birds of a feather. That's what they say. And claim that Liz Cheney's support of Nikki Haley is the final nail in the coffin. Like, that's one of those people where they're like, I'm Liz Cheney and I endorse Nikki Haley. Like, you call and be like, yo, don't. Please.
Please don't do that.
Don't do that. Not a good look. Your endorsement doesn't hold the weight you think it does. Don't.
It has the exact opposite effect.
Yeah. Please don't.
Don't.
Well, she did. Former Rep Liz Cheney urging Nikki Haley to stay in the 2024 race in a new Pod Save America interview. Haley's refusal to bow out after losing New Hampshire, it gets under a lot of people's skin. She doesn't have a chance of winning. She's just draining money. But, I mean, with this endorsement, sky's the limit. Maybe we'll see the polls surging once again. Although they say that the former Congresswoman Liz Cheney's comments were not they weren't an official endorsement of Haley, with the podcasters asking Cheney if she was worried that her endorsement might hurt the former UN ambassador chances. And Liz Cheney said, I've not made any formal endorsements at this point, but certainly I would never support or vote for Donald Trump again. Okay.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Thanks, Kenny. Liz Cheney. It's like, even she knows that her endorsement is bad.
She's like, I got to backpedal this.
Yeah, hold on.
Wait.
Nikki Haley, though, her rallies have been bangers. Have you seen her rallies?
The surge is showing up.
The surge is there. And the people, their voices are heard at these rallies.
He's got to stop trying to get back into an Iran deal that doesn't help us. And he's got to start making sure that we show American strength. That's the only way we will get that done.
No new wars. I'm done with the military-industrial complex.
None of us want new wars.
That's Nikki Haley being interrupted by a quote-unquote heckler who says, no new wars. We're done with the military-industrial complex.
Did you go to this rally?
It was not me. If she comes to Tennessee, I may do that.
That's so you.
That's the only way we will get that done.
No new wars. I'm done with the military-industrial complex.
None of us want new wars. None of us want new wars.
You
Where's
do.
your money coming from? Read Hoffman or LinkedIn. We know where your money's coming from, Nikki. We know. And we're sick of the wars. We want America first.
He says, we know where your money's coming from, Nikki. It's coming from Reid Hoffman. We're sick of the wars. We don't want you. We don't want new wars. We know where your money's coming from. Surging in the polls. 8212 talking about, sent a text. 8212 talking about Liz Cheney supporting Nikki Haley. Says, defense contractor money got to stay together. Yep.
Bingo.
Yep. Somebody 4534 is asking about the ads that we're running, and I just I'll reply to what I replied earlier. LOL capitalism. But if Nikki Haley comes to Tennessee, you might hear me, jumping in the fray.
That's the only way we will get that done.
No new wars. I'm done with the military-industrial complex.
No.
Mr. Hand, please exit. I like that guy.
Yeah, you guys would get along.
I feel like I feel like I'd hang out with him.
Oh, for sure. You guys would be bros.
But, you can't argue that at Nikki Haley rallies, people's voices are being heard. Joe Biden has been stumping for Joe Biden. And she's now taking on Trump. She's accusing Donald Trump of doing everything he can to make Joe look bad. I would argue that's what your husband's doing. But have you seen him? Have you seen your husband? Middle from the middle, 2024.
But when you're middle from the middle,
I mean, isn't he saying in this economy, rich people are doing good, but poor people still got a shot?
got a chance.
You got a shot. Poor people have a shot.
It's working.
In this economy. Joe Biden has been attacking Donald Trump because of the border deal. She said, you see what happened today with the border, and now Trump is trying to do everything he can to make Joe look bad. That's what she told donors at a Houston fundraiser. Joe is in such bad shape that his wife has to do the fundraisers for him. Not just his wife. Obama and Bill Clinton are hosting a major fundraiser for Joe Biden. That's another one. It's like Liz Cheney is a bad look for Nikki Haley. I would argue for Democrats, Bill, bro, after all the Epstein stuff, no thank you. Is that right? Wouldn't you agree that that's a bad look? You visit Pedo Island like 26 times and then you're going to be like, this is my guy, Joe Biden. So President Joe Biden's reelection campaign is hosting a fundraiser with Obama and Bill Clinton this spring, and it's hoping to energize voters ahead of the 2024 election. According to sources familiar with the campaign's plan that spoke to NBC News, the idea is to have 3 Democrat presidents there together in order to draw funds, headlines, and energize voters. No date has been set yet. But that's the plan. That's the plan. Not sure it's a winning recipe. Also, do you remember the big UAW endorsement that Joe Biden received? He received the UAW president's endorsement, the United Auto Workers. It's a big deal, right? This is a big endorsement. The UAW president, Sean Fain, if you recall, he said,
Donald Trump is a scab.
Yep. And then he endorsed Joe Biden immediately following. Well, now they're saying members of the United Auto Workers have told Daily Caller News Foundation that the union's leadership support for Joe Biden does not factor into their opinions about the 2024 presidential election. When UAW President Sean Fain announced last Wednesday that the union was endorsing President Biden in the election, despite attempts by Trump to woo over leadership, the rank and file auto workers said, yeah, don't really care. Not a huge thing. Joe Pizzamenti is an hourly worker at Ford's Sterling plant in Sterling Heights, Michigan. Been there for 30 years as a UAW member the whole time. And he says, this endorsement is not a big deal to me because I can think for myself, and I'm not alone. He said, many of my coworkers and I see the Biden administration as hostile to the American auto industry and thus to the interests of UAW members. And if I recall correctly, UAW President Sean Fain admitted the same thing with Neil Cavuto.
Look, that's what makes this country, a beacon for other countries. It's democracy in action. Look, let me be clear about this. A great majority of our members will not vote for President Biden. Yes, some will. But that's the reality of this. The majority of our members are going to vote their paychecks. They're going to vote for an economy that works for them, and they're going to vote for a president. When you look at these two presidents, the choice is very clear about which one stands up with the working class and stands up for labor.
And, well, it seems like the UAW workers believe that president is Trump. Another UAW worker, Nelson Westrick, member of UAW for more than 27 years, said, I personally was hired in almost 28 years ago, and at the time, anyone who didn't vote Democrat didn't really speak about politics because the plant population was very heavily dominated by Democrats. I'd say it was around 85% and 15% Republican in those days. The current status is that people are now very outspoken with support toward Trump, wearing Trump shirts, hats, and other garb. We don't put a lot of credence into what the upper UAW echelon says. It was only a matter of a few years back that around 15 of them went to federal prison for robbing us, and it was probably going on for decades. So you can take that endorsement and toss it in the trash. It doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything to the UAW members. A lot of endorsements being thrown around. Bad endorsements, right? Not what people want to hear. 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. It was just last night my wife said, hey, we should probably get up on our annual maintenance for our HVAC system and call our friends at Busy Bee. Because, this time of year, it's cold in the morning, then it's warming up in the afternoon. Your system's on, your system's off. So you have to make sure it's serviced the best way, the Busy Bee way with Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. You don't want to wait for a problem to pop up with your heat this time of year, or find yourself a couple months down the road. I mean, January's already over. Before we know it, we're going to be kicking on our AC, and you don't want to find a problem popping up when you need to kick on your AC. So get your annual maintenance scheduled with Busy Bee. And whether you need that annual maintenance or repair or replacement plumbing, heating, or air system, the guys who I trust are Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. If you do need to replace your system, you won't find a better value on replacement systems. They offer up to 12 months, no payment, no interest with approved credit, and it pays in so many ways to sign up for the annual maintenance on your plumbing, heating, and air systems from Busy Bee. For added rewards and savings, you can also sign up to be a Beehive member. That'll get you front-of-the-line service, thorough annual maintenance on all your plumbing, heating, and air systems, no overtime charges 24/7, and 10% off all repairs. Plus, they have convenient Saturday availability for those maintenance calls, so you'll never be left out in the cold. Busy Bee, they're your Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. 615-775-7833. That's 615-775-7833, or online at busybeehvac.com.
Rolling roadblocks to fix some potholes going on I-24 east and westbound through Montgomery County. Got some deadly crash details for you. President Biden says he's made a decision on how to respond to 3 U.S. service members killed in Jordan. Hear what it's like in the room where House Republicans are poised to advance articles of impeachment of the Homeland Security Secretary. Coming up at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I just want to call Mac out about something.
Oh, gosh.
Do you guys know how many personal calls Mac takes on the clock?
Whoa.
People are calling the request line, or the request line, the super talk line, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The phone.
Our
the
hotline,
phone number.
our phone line, yeah.
You're pulling a Dan Mandis.
But, all right, easy, Ken. I was saying I was happy you were back. Don't make me turn my ire that way. Mac gets personal calls to root on the Chiefs. I'm in the middle of a monologue, and I'm hearing Mac slam the table, yell, "Let's go!"
Oh, man.
And then he hangs up. So I'm thinking somebody's going to make a comment about Liz Cheney.
Exactly.
Maybe somebody's going to make a comment about Bill Clinton going to, show out for Biden.
Yeah.
No, they're just calling Mac to say, "We're going to the Super Bowl, baby."
Go Chiefs. I'm like, thanks, man.
This has been happening all football season long. I cannot wait for these 2 weeks then. If you want to call Mac, don't call Mac. He's busy. He's busy.
Yeah, Jack.
Every day is like 4 or 5 calls with this kid.
Hey, man, congrats on your boys. I'm like, thanks, guys.
He starts typing it out on the call screen. It's like Billy from the Burrow.
Yeah.
And then it just disappears. He's calling about the Chiefs.
Love you, Billy.
Not calling about politics. Just jumping on the Patrick Mahomes train with Mac.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
So after 12, those calls can continue. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes, and we're learning more about the crash that shut down I-24 in Murfreesboro this morning. Claimed the life of a teenager. Tennessee Highway Patrol says 19-year-old Bianca Benford drove into the median from the eastbound lanes, went into the westbound lanes, and slammed head-on into a vehicle. Benford died. Fortunately, the other driver survived. And right now, in our nation's capital,
President Biden said Tuesday he has decided how the U.S. will respond to the drone attack in Jordan that killed 3 American soldiers. Asked if he holds Iran responsible for the deaths, the president said,
I do hold them responsible in the sense that they're supplying the weapons to the people who did it.
The president reiterated the U.S. does not want a wider war in the Middle East.
That's not what I'm looking for.
That is Karen Travers reporting. We're waiting to see if House Republicans advance impeachment articles against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
House Homeland Security Chair Mark Green opened the hearing.
Impeaching Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas.
Green accuses Mayorkas of permitting an unprecedented influx of migrants.
He has willfully and systematically refused to comply with the laws passed by Congress.
But the committee's top Democrat says Mayorkas has done his best. And Betty Thompson adds the secretary's actions aren't high crimes or misdemeanors.
No serious person believes they are.
The first impeachment trial of a cabinet official since the 1870s would surely end with an acquittal in the Democratic-controlled Senate.
That's Stephen Portnoy reporting. It's been a bad day at UPS. More bad days to come as the company announced this morning it plans to cut 12,000 jobs after revenue came in $1 billion short of expectations last year. The CEO cites labor union costs are rising. UPS shares tanking more than 6% in early trading today on Wall Street. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. You know, they keep telling us that this Biden economy, it's amazing. We're booming. But then you hear in Ken Weaver's newscast, UPS announcing 12,000 job cuts.
12,000.
And they say it's because package volume slipped last quarter?
Yep.
Wouldn't that have been Christmas?
Yep.
So now there's 12,000 layoffs. A super texter sent in, what can Brown do for you? As well, it's lay you off. That's what, 4702. So how is this economy doing well when last quarter they missed their goal by $1 billion? How? Make it make sense to me. I don't understand how this works. UPS fell short of Wall Street revenue estimates Tuesday, reporting drops in shipping volume, both internationally and domestically, in its fourth quarter earnings report. And now they're laying off 12,000 people. 12,000 people. On the flip side, people are losing their jobs and home prices are hitting record highs. Home prices rose for the 10th consecutive month last November. Now being reported by the housing market today. The S&P CoreLogic Case-Shiller 20-City House Price Index climbed 0.1% in November compared with the prior month. Compared with the year earlier, the index is up 5.4%. That's a bigger gain than the 4.9% annual increase recorded for October. So house prices are up, jobs are down, and Joe Biden is trying to tout his economic wins. Am I following this? I think I'm following this. This is the guy that we're trusting to lead us on the world stage, Joe Biden. And this is the kind of stuff why people are like, he's not making it to be the nominee. It's going to end up being Michelle Obama. Because nothing he does works. This is why Joe Biden's out there trying to say, oh, it's Trump doing everything to make Joe look bad. It's his results that are making him look bad. Donald Trump Jr. was talking about Joe Biden just last night.
We have wars breaking out all over. Today, they announced Joe Biden may be announcing taking action tonight against Iran. Oh, great, Joe Biden's going to be at the helm. You wouldn't get in an Uber if it was driven by Joe Biden. Unless you're suicidal.
He's right. And Joe Biden, he's going to end up getting us into a war with Iran. Fun fact, in 2020, Joe Biden predicted that Trump would get us into a war with Iran.
The world has changed because of what Trump has done. And the American people, including independents and some Republicans, know how bad he is, know how much he's misrepresented, know how he's getting close to getting us in a war. I said, as the walls close in on this man, I'm worried he's going to get us to war in Iran. Unfortunately, I may have been right. The fact of the matter is there's a lot at stake in this election.
I mean, I think the comment still stands true. There is a lot at stake in this election. But everything they said Trump would do, Joe Biden has done. So is it a shock to you when you see the prediction market giving Donald Trump a 94% chance of securing the GOP nomination and a 55% chance of beating Joe Biden? Polymarket, which describes itself as the world's largest prediction market, is giving former President Trump a 94% chance of becoming the Republican nominee and a 55% chance of beating Joe Biden. This was from their snapshot of the 2024 election forecast from Monday afternoon. It showed, again, 94% of Trump becoming the nominee. Nikki Haley only garnered 4%, while another 3% said other. Other almost beat Nikki Haley. Interestingly, there's more confidence that Trump will be the GOP nominee than Joe Biden being the Democrat nominee. Biden garners 85% that he'll be the Democrat nominee. Trump at 94%. It's because people look around and they see the results of Joe Biden's policies and they go, I don't know if he's going to make it. Democrats say, I don't know if he's going to make it. Independents say, I don't know if he's going to make it. Republicans are like, yeah, he's most likely not going to make it. Gavin Newsom is also on that list at 6% and 5% for Michelle Obama. The predictions don't end there. While the forecast currently has an 82% chance of Biden and Trump facing off, 55% believe Trump would win that race, followed by 39% for Biden, 2% for Newsom, 1% for Haley, 1% for RFK Jr. It's not even close. And these predictions come as Haley charges on. She's got that big endorsement from Liz Cheney now. It's huge. It's huge. So the prediction market gives Trump the edge. Meanwhile, Trump is dealing with all these legal battles, right? Trump's legal team is actually attacking the Jan 6 insurrection charge in its Supreme Court argument while they're asking the Supreme Court to overturn Colorado's decision to keep him off the ballot. Breitbart News reported this yesterday, saying this is all because of the Colorado decision to keep him off the ballot. So that's going to the court. And they're now arguing that President Trump never told his supporters to enter the Capitol, which is, of course, the truth. They're saying he did not lead, direct, or encourage any of the unlawful acts that occurred at the Capitol, which is, of course, the truth. Saying that didn't happen either in his speech at the Ellipse or in any of his statements or communications before or during the events of January 6th. Now, they say that he did, but Trump's legal team is arguing that there are two different First Amendments. That there's a Trump-specific First Amendment now. You know, calling for peace, patriotism, respect, law and order. That's not an insurrection. That's not. They say that the court should not allow a candidate's eligibility for the presidency to be determined in any way affected by testimony from sociology professors who claims an ability to decipher coded messages. The fact remains, Trump didn't commit or participate in unlawful acts at the Capitol. But they want to argue that he did and judge him based on coded messages. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. In the meantime, people smell blood in the water when it comes to Joe Biden. And even if Trump is convicted, Joe Manchin is saying he would absolutely run for president if Biden has a health scare or Trump is convicted. Either or. He's been privately making the case for an election bid if Joe Biden has a health scare or if Trump is convicted of a crime. I'd argue that you see Joe walking around, he's a walking health scare. But this is according to Fox News, who said Manchin said that he can absolutely see himself running for office in 2024 if either incident were to happen. It's a report from Sunday. Manchin said that he believes that there is a role for him to be branded as the fiscally responsible and socially compassionate middle presidential pick. If he were to run, he would do so using the No Labels group that has secured state ballot lines. That group set a mid-March deadline to determine what they will do for backing a unity ticket bid. Manchin broke from the Democrat Party on multiple different issues, such as spending and For the People Act. And the West Virginia senator has previously said that he was unsure of whether he would make a run for office, but he did not rule it out. And in the report from last week, WGN9, Manchin told the outlet he's considering the idea. He said, "I'm open to whatever it takes to save this country. You might be my opponent, but you're not my enemy. You may have a different idea, but if we work together, we can come up with a plan." He also added, is there a way to get President Biden back towards the middle a little bit, where he came from? He's been pushed clear to the left. However, fellow West Virginia Senator Shelley Moore Capito has her doubts that Manchin could pull it off as a third-party candidate. She said, I don't know what the end game is here. I don't know. He's been touted as being, some kind of candidate or a brokered candidate for the president. So people in West Virginia don't buy it, but it wouldn't shock me if Manchin made a run for third party. Would it shock you? I still think that him and RFK on a ticket would be something. I also don't know if Joe Biden makes it, and I think a Michelle Obama Fetterman ticket would be something. That would definitely get some jimmies rustled.
That would shake things up.
It would shake things up. And I think Fetterman's been planting those base takes, setting himself up for that. He's just been too base lately.
You do think Michelle's going to do it, though?
I don't know.
I mean, because everything that she says, she just did not like the White House.
Yeah.
She didn't like being there.
She hated D.C., hated all that.
Yeah.
But they do like money.
I like money.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Would you run as a third-party candidate? They need somebody.
A super text in if you'd vote for me as a third-party candidate.
Don't. Just call him about the Chiefs.
Don't.
Yeah.
Bingo.
I don't know. I feel like we're going to find ourselves in a situation where it's not Biden. It's not. You know what I mean?
I need to look this up. Like, when's the latest candidates? Like,
it would be they would have to do something at the convention,
and that's the latest you can.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Former Senator Al Franken, a Democrat out of Minnesota, said on Monday's CNN Newsnight that it was the patriotic duty of former officials who were in President Donald Trump's administration to warn voters he is dangerous. Got to warn the people. Anchor Abby Phillips said, November looks likely to be a Biden-Trump matchup. How do you think that goes if the election were held today? And then Franklin replied, polling today changes all the time, but I don't know. It's going to be a close election either way. And he said, I would like to see these former Trump administration officials start to say who this guy is. She said, do you expect that will happen? Al Franken said, I would urge them to do it. I hope they are watching right now. I'm sure they were. I'm sure they were glued to the TV set from the groping senator from Minnesota. Right? That's why he had to leave office. He was groping people. Correct?
Bingo.
Yep. Said I would urge them to do it. I hope they're watching right now. If they are patriots and they feel the sway about this guy, that he is the most dangerous person they've ever seen, that he is the lowest character of anyone they've ever met, it is your patriotic duty to get out there and tell people about this. We can't have this man running our government. You know, the guy that ran the government pretty well the first time. That guy. The guy that started No New Wars, that guy. Yep. All right, word. You know, it's funny to me. Al Franken had to leave office because he had that photo going around where he was groping the, I think it was a soldier that was asleep, actually. A female soldier that was asleep. Google that for me. I'm pretty sure that was what it was. And he's the guy speaking out against Trump. Of course, he thinks he has a leg to stand on now because of the E. Jean Carroll verdict. Did you see The View? The View were taking their victory lap on the E. Jean Carroll verdict. This is what they came out to yesterday. And they're dancing. They're dancing. Of course, that was the theme song to The Apprentice, right? So.
Yep, Celebrity Apprentice.
Yep.
We just walked out to the OJ's for the Love of Money, which is the theme song of The Apprentice, and that's connected to the fact that you know who has to pay money, 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 money.
And the clapping seals go crazy.
Something like $83 million. 83.3. Oh, I'm sorry. $83.3 million.
So they were pretty excited. Pretty excited. E. Jean Carroll was also on all the news circuits taking her victory lap.
And you're fascinating to talk to. And together, this team of brilliant young people have, as you said, stood up to the man.
Oh.
Who, by the way, Rachel, is not even there. He's nothing. He is like a walrus snorting and like a rhino flopping his hand. He is not there. That was the surprising thing to me.
Oh, he's not there. I have a feeling in about a year, we won't even be thinking about E. Jean Carroll. This is her 15 minutes of fame. She's trying to dunk on Trump and she can barely talk. He's not even there. He's like a snorting walrus. It's like, what are you talking about? This is who they awarded $83 million to. This is the credible accuser. All right. She also said to Rachel Maddow that she was going to buy her a penthouse with the money. So it's being put to good use, I guess. 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Pothole patching and paving slowing things down on both 24 east and westbound in Montgomery County. Former President Trump stays on another state's ballot. President Biden said he has made his decision on how to respond to that deadly drone strike that killed 3 U.S. service members. And the top Democrat in the House Homeland Security Committee takes a jab at Republicans today. These stories and more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Appreciate you guys listening wherever you are on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, subscribing to the podcast for the Chris Hand Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the things. And chiming in, as you always do, on the super text line at 615-737-9986. Did you see that one person who says random question, 9495?
Yeah, it's a great one.
9495 said, random question. Do we have the oldest leader in the entire world? Seriously. So my first reaction was like, probably.
Yeah, I was like, well, we got to be at least up there. So I looked it up. Not even the top 10.
We're not in the top 10 for oldest leader?
Top 10, no.
All right, what's the top 10?
All right, so president of Cameroon is 90.
Cameroon's beautiful this time of year.
Paul Biya, 90 years old, and 346 days, so it better be 91. President of the Palestinian National Authority.
Wait, does that mean his birthday's tomorrow?
No. 19 days, 365, so he's at 346.
Oh, what are we going to get him? What do you get the president of Cameroon? Man has everything.
91, right? I mean, come on.
All right, so the
pack of Marlboros.
A pack of Marlboros. A bottle of whiskey. All right, who else is on the top 10?
So, Mohammed Abbas, president of the Palestinian National Authority, 88. You got King of Saudi Arabia, 88. The Pope of the Holy See, sovereign of the Vatican City State. I don't know.
Is that just the
Pope?
That's
Is that just
Pope?
Pope Francis? Yeah, we're counting Pope Francis on this list. Interesting. 87. King of Norway, 86. You've got the president of Ireland, president of Italy, president of...
How old's the president of Ireland?
Ireland, Italy, and Namibia are all 82. All 82. And I think, Biden's 80?
I think he's 81, right?
81. So, yeah, he's close. Almost cracks the top 10.
He's not in the top 10.
No.
If you take out, do we count kings?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they're not really elected. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's fair.
If you take out the kings, are we in the top 10?
Yeah, if you took out the kings, I'd imagine we have to be, yeah. The Emir of Kuwait, if you took that out. Yeah, I don't know. If you took some of these out, probably.
The Emir of Kuwait?
That's what it says.
What's an Emir?
Yeah, I gotta look that up.
What is an Emir?
Position. The Emir of the state of Kuwait is the monarch and head of the state of Kuwait.
It's a different word for king.
Sounds like it.
The Emir.
The Emirs of Kuwait are members of the Al Sabah dynasty.
Oh. All right.
So they're elected too.
I'm sure fair. Very fair.
Yeah.
When you can threaten your citizens, you don't have to cheat in the elections. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When your citizens are worried about being murdered for voting the wrong way, it's pretty fair.
The oldest leader of all time, Giovanni Paolo Laceras, the Grand Master of the Knights Hospitaller. I'd sound so stupid right now. 97 years old.
Grand Master.
Flash.
Yeah, that's where my head went too. I don't know. I tend to shy away from leaders that start with Grand Master.
Yeah.
That's a rule of thumb.
It's like a jungle out there. Sometimes it makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
This is where we don't get this with ABC News, Ken.
No, sir.
We don't.
No, sir.
Who's the youngest world leader?
That's a good question.
This is you know what I mean? What's the yin to the yang, Mac?
Fact checking. Getting there. Youngest top 10 currently serving. Youngest. How old do you think, or how young, I guess, do you think is the youngest?
23.
Too young. 34. Gabriel Attal, Prime Minister of France. 34, though, man.
The Prime Minister of France?
That's what they say.
What that doesn't count because you got Macron.
Macron.
They say he assumed office this year.
Macron.
I heard that Macron fled France over the farmer protests. Have you seen the farmer protests?
I have, yes.
They've been like shutting down highways, spraying manure on government buildings.
Yeah.
How come we can't have fun protests like that?
Too busy working.
Yeah, too busy working. This is true. Conservatives don't protest. They just go to work.
Got to feed their families.
Yes. And in this economy, it's more and more expensive to do so.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Joe Biden. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, got some pothole patching and some paving slowing east and westbound 24 down through Montgomery County. About a 54-minute delay if you're going eastbound. That's an hour and a half delay. Actually, that's a 2.5-hour delay if you're going westbound on 24 through Montgomery County. Election 2024, former President Trump stays on the Illinois ballot. The state election board deciding it unanimously, turning back a challenge under the Constitution's insurrection amendment. President Biden answered yes when asked by reporters today if he has decided how to respond to the Iranian-backed drone strike that killed 3 U.S. service members in Jordan Sunday. Then Biden reiterated the U.S. does not want a wider war in the Middle East. Elsewhere in the nation's capital, the top Democrat on the House Homeland Security Committee pushing back on Republican-led efforts to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over the southern border crisis.
Extreme MAGA Republicans who are running the House of Representatives are deeply unserious people.
Well, they may be serious enough to move it to the full House today. House Republicans leading the impeachment inquiry say Mayorkas has been ignoring U.S. law regarding the migrant influx at the southern border. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at Paul Winkler, Inc. As you know, I got 4 wonderful kids, and my wife and I were thinking about the future. Maybe paying for college down the road. Maybe, hopefully, paying for some weddings. But we didn't have a financial plan to get our goals accomplished. We didn't have a plan for retirement. It was one of our weaknesses. But it's not one of our weaknesses anymore. In fact, it's one of our strengths because we linked up with the team at Paul Winkler, Inc. Paul's team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required. Because of that, I got to tell you, I'm paid every time this commercial airs. That's the truth. But it's not why we decided to become clients of Paul's. We decided to become clients when we got to sit down with Paul, have our questions answered, have a discussion, come up with a plan. And he could break things down for me in a way that I could understand. I was financially illiterate, but the guys at Paul Winkler, Inc., they're focused on education, and the investment education they'll provide you is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. You're going to learn a lot, and it's going to make sense, the moves you're making for your financial future. Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do, and with his team, nothing is done on commission. So you can be sure when they're making a decision for your financial future, it's just that. It's for your financial future, not theirs, because nothing is done on commission. This is why I recommend Paul and his team so highly. Every single office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience, and that experience is the difference between Paul's team and the rest. So do what I did. Talk to one of his team members today. You can set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. One of the best things that I love about this show is you guys on the super text line and on the phone lines. It seems like we've accrued this gang of characters that call in quite often, and our friend Calvin calls in all the time. So I'd like now to recognize the honorable gentleman from Wilson County. Calvin, what's up, man? You're next on Super Talk.
Hey, Chris, I feel like Stone Cold right now hearing that.
You like that? You like that, Calvin?
God. Every time you do that, I see him up on that corner slamming them cans. I love Stone Cold there.
Me too.
But
he's one of the best.
Hey, as far as Joe Manchin.
Yes, sir.
Remember before we took over the House and we were desperately trying to get the Senate?
Yes.
I remember Brian Wilson. That guy said every time we got on the radio, we got one saving grace in this presidency. And it is Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. And Joe Manchin swore he would never vote for this crazy stuff, including the 87,000 IRS agents. And Schumer had one chance to get this Go Green bill through, and he voted for it because they bought him off. And I think cut his and Kirsten Sinema's throat for what they promised them for their states. I can't trust that guy.
No.
I cannot trust that guy.
No, I don't blame you. I don't trust Joe Manchin as far as I can throw him. But I could definitely see him throwing his hat in the ring in some third-party candidate kind of way.
Right.
And I could see a lot of independents, a lot of Democrats falling for it.
Yeah. And hey, I want to say this too. I listened to some but Mark Levin last night.
Yes, sir.
He had an expert on that if Mark Levin says this guy knows what he's talking about, I trust him just like I do you all. This guy said that at one time the Republicans were broke. No, we're broke now. The Republicans had all the money and the left was broke. Now it's reversed. We're broke and they have all the money. He said they are putting together organizations with lawyers. He said not lawyers with ponytails. He said lawyers that's been with big organizations like the CIA, the IRS, seasoned with the best. He said to stop third parties going in and going against Joe Biden. He had this big discussion. Now, this guy, the expert, had the IRS knock on his door for speaking out with this stuff.
Really?
See, that's what they do. If we speak out, and we are next, all we got to do is speak out against the left, and my neighbors say, hey, this guy next to me, he's a big lefty hater. All of a sudden, he works for himself. He's a position for himself. They're knocking on my door.
Yeah.
But that interview with that guy And when Mark Levin hung up with him, he said that's a guy that's figured everything out. You would have had to hear the interview that this guy has figured out how he doesn't think we're ever going to get back on top ever again because they have all this money. And Mark asked him, he said, how do we get back on top? He said, it's very depressing hearing what you're saying. But anyways, I hope someone heard that Levin last night.
I'll go back and check it out. I appreciate the tip. Thanks, Calvin, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the honorable gentleman from Wilson County, our friend Calvin.
Calvin's great.
Yeah. Sounds just like Ted Kennedy.
He really does.
It's my favorite part about him.
And he brings great info.
He does. I will check out that interview. I think that if they're going to try and stop third-party candidates, is because they know that the third party is going to hurt the left. It's going to weaken Joe Biden because the vote blue no matter who crowd, they're like, I don't know, man. They're looking at their wallet. They're looking at their bank statement. They're looking at their grocery bill. And they're saying, I just don't know. It's going to be hard to plug your nose and deal with that. Point blank. Hey, here's a story that I wanted to get to today before the day is done. You know, we oftentimes say that the left is coming after your kids. And I think that this story needs to be one of the biggest stories in the country. And it's about to be. Montana CPS has removed a teen from their family after the family refused to go along with a sex change. You heard me right. There was a 14-year-old girl in Montana. She has been removed from her father and stepmother's custody after they opposed a series of moves made by the state and healthcare professionals to undermine their parental authority and facilitate a sex change for the girl. The child, who identifies as a male named Leo but is female, has been placed in the custody of Child and Family Services in Montana, who have since decided to send her to live with her biological mother in Canada. In an interview with Redux, Krista and Todd Kolstad explained the ordeal began in August of 2023 when their daughter Jennifer's school called, claiming that she had tried to kill herself with toilet bowl cleaner and painkillers. Despite knowing that there was no way this was true, they took her to the hospital. Sure enough, toxicology reports revealed no abnormalities. While there, however, medical personnel referred to the teen using male pronouns because they must do what the patient tells them. Krista said that during Jennifer's stay at the hospital, the teen was repeatedly informed about gender-affirming care, including double mastectomy surgery to give the female chest a flat look, and that her motherly concerns were dismissed. Eventually, a joint decision was made to let Jennifer spend some time at a treatment facility to receive counseling. However, even though there were numerous options in Montana, they were told she could also go to Wyoming, where Krista soon discovered gender-affirming care was accessible to minors without parental consent. Then this girl, who was originally given a bed in Montana, not long after it was decided, against Krista and Todd's wishes, she decided she was going to go to Wyoming. Short time later, Child and Family Services showed up with police and took her out of their care. In September, Jennifer returned to Montana and was put in a youth dynamics group home for 6 to 9 months. That term was cut short, however, on January 19th, 2024, when a judge ordered her parents to relinquish custody to CFS, who have since told them that Jennifer will be sent to her biological mother, Christine, in Ontario. We were told that letting this girl transition and live as a boy was in her therapeutic best interest. Because we aren't willing to follow that recommendation, the court gave custody of Jennifer for 6 months to Child Protective Services. Adding that, the mom, who they then gave custody to, has never been a part of this girl's life and has a history of abusive behavior. Krista and Todd have now been held in contempt of court for speaking out against the state's handling of the situation, but have vowed to continue the fight. They've launched a Give, Send, Go to help them, and it reads, we're setting up this Give, Send, Go for my brother and sister-in-law who fall victim to forced trans ideology, government, and medical tyranny that resulted in the medical kidnapping of their 14-year-old child in Montana. Kidnapping of a 14-year-old child in Montana because they didn't want to transition the child. An update was issued on January 29th with a Kolstad family statement saying the parents, Krista and Todd, originally had a YouTube video detailing these series of events that resulted in the kidnapping of their child. They were threatened by the judge with contempt of court and prison time if they didn't remove it. Then someone, not the parents, uploaded it to Rumble. You can find that there. Their name is Todd and Krista Kolstad. Kolstad. Kolstad family statement is the video. You can find it on Rumble. But due to threats, the parents cannot personally share it at this time. And they have no control over its dissemination online, as they are not the ones who posted it to Rumble. Please pray for them. This is a big story. Now, surprisingly, the Republican governor in that state has defended this online. Governor Greg Gianforte, I don't know how you pronounce his name, 25th governor of Montana. He says, to give them their best shot at reaching their full potential, children deserve to grow up in happy, healthy homes with loving families. Sadly, this ideal is not always realized. He has a big, long tweet thread. Unfortunately, our society finds children whose life, health, and well-being are at serious risk from abuse and neglect, and only as a last resort should they be removed from their home. Would not transitioning your child be considered as a serious risk of abuse and neglect? It seems that way. But the governor continues, upon hearing recent allegations related to a child welfare case, I asked Lieutenant Governor Kristen Juras, an experienced attorney, constitutional conservative, mother and grandmother, to review it. Consulting with the director of DPHHS and personally examining case documents, Lieutenant Governor Juras has concluded that the court followed state policy and law in their handling of this tragic case. I have asked the Lieutenant Governor to continue monitoring the case as it progresses. Further, Senate Bill 99, which I signed into law in April of 2023, prohibits medical and surgical treatments to minors with gender dysphoria and also prohibits the use of taxpayer resources for such treatment. Our administration will continue to advance policies that strengthen our families and protect Montana kids, like what we have done to promote adoption and ban permanent invasive life-altering medical procedures. You know, this is all well and good that he's blocked these things, but don't you find it odd that they've done a full entire investigation of this case in a matter of hours that it was made public? Libs of TikTok called out the governor on Twitter, asking him, why did he veto House Bill 37, which would have required Child Protective Services to obtain a judicial warrant before removing children from their homes? A lot of people are up in arms about this, calling the governor's response completely inadequate, asking for more details as to what's actually happening, not vague references as to how great the governor is on issues. We'll be monitoring this story. To me, I look at this and it just makes me sad. All around. Pray for those parents, Krista and Todd Kolstad, and find their family statement on Rumble. Kolstad, Kolstad family statement. It's worth the watch. 11:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.